Good evening, and we are back for another Women's Month celebration. I forget say Women's Month celebration, where every night we interview, or we try to do every night, and interview a phenomenal woman. And tonight's topic, we are talking about women in organizations. And so we do have Wafaa Abdurahman. She is how would we categorize this? How she will explain to you how long she's been doing this, but she has been the mother hen to most women in organization, carrying them through, from the technical side of being an organization right through to all the emotional things. She's your girl. So we're gonna give a little bit of um, over to Wafa to tell us or introduce us to who she is and how long she's been in the business actually.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks, Bionifer, for having me on your program. It's really an honor to be here. And just to say upfront, I'm really proud of where you are and how far you've come from the first time we've met. So my name is Wafaa Abdurahman. I have worked in organizations. I don't know. I think since my small toe became my small toe. That's how long it is. So, with me, I have experience from the trade union movement to rural development to the cooperative movement to corporate and alles. And then also ended up my previous job to where I'm now with the Community Development Foundation, Western Cape, where I work with Bionifer amongst other women and amongst other organizations in other areas. Um, um, at the moment, I am the current national coordinator for the Fighting Inequality Alliance, which has taken me a little bit in a different direction, where I work with social movements, NGOs, CBOs across the country, the 9 provinces. I head up the South African chapter, where we look at inequality and injustice across the board, irrespective on whom it is perpetrated. But at the same time, I've not lost contact with the people at the women specifically that I work with. Yeah. So that's who I am. Yeah. So I think for me to put a date on when it started, it's a little bit of impossibility. It's just I could also give away my age, Bionifa, and you're not supposed to ask me that.
Okay. Now I'm just gonna admit from ik is 'n bietjie nervous vanaand. Soos ek sê, Wafa has been my mentor for like is it last 2 years? Want tyd gaan so gou. 3 jaar?
Uh, yeah, almost 3 years.
Oh,
I think
almost
it's
three
about
years.
3 years. Yep,
Almost three
yep.
years. Yeah. So yes, ek is 'n bietjie nervous hierso. En dan sê ja, kykie so baie nie. So why choose to go into this direction with, mentoring and organizations just in that field that you're? Why is that the passion for you?
So by trade, I'm a facilitator. I am a trainer, and I write materials and I do that. So a big passion of mine is development. So development, no matter when, what, and so on. And for me, more so within our communities, I think we need sturdy organizations in our communities. There's so many things that happen, and so many fly by nights that come about. They don't get the hearts are in the good place, but they don't normally look at the organization and how to keep it afloat, to be doing the good things that they're supposed to be doing. So my role generally was to look at the other side. Yes, you're good at giving out the food, you're good at trauma counseling and that, but you're not always good at making sure that this vehicle that you're using as an organization that's doing good is sustainable. So then kind of asking the difficult questions, how, what, and when, who, and so on. That was important because what's the use that we start off and we do all these wonderful things, and then a year or so later, or even less, the organization is no longer there. So And particularly you kind of have to work 2 or 3 times harder, and then you sit there, you do all the hard work. At the end of the day, the things that happens in our community happens because of women, and we sometimes not seen. So for me, it's important to make sure that women are seen and they're appreciated for what they put into communities or what they put into the organizations, and how they strive and how they get to where they want to be against all odds. So that for me is very important. I'm very passionate about that. And yeah, so development as just a general rule for me, it's a passion. Yeah, and if I can do it with people that are marginalized, even better. And that's why I think I never survived in the corporate sector. I was there, but my heart wasn't there. So yeah, I knew where it needed to be, and I needed to make that transition.
We
I don't know
have
whether
one
there's
comment
anything
that
else, but I think sorry, also maybe mentoring and yeah. What is the comment?
we have one comment that says, "Well done, Miss Wafaa Abdurahman." I think his name is Jamie. As ik nog net die naam reg sê. But you can continue on and
Oh,
saying that
as one of the
you have one more
youth.
thing to make.
Yes, I'm just saying for me, also mentoring of younger people and organizations with younger people is very important, because a lot of times, as well as older people, you are set in your ways and you do things the way you think it's right. But the world is changing, and
I think you're breaking up a little bit.
and we need to make the space for young people to come in. Oh, we used to live
Can you still hear us?
around for to make space for younger people to come in, and specifically for. Can you hear me now?
Yes, there we go. You broke
Hi.
up a little bit when
Okay.
you were speaking about the youth.
Yes. Yeah, I was saying that Jamie is one of the youth,
Hmm.
young ladies that's in the organization that it's working together with me and others. So for me, I continue, even though it's maybe not, they're not heading up their own organizations, but the leadership skills and so on, it's important to hand it down and to make sure, and also to learn from other people. For me, it's very important to sit there and listen to other people as well and learn from them. I always say I can never claim your struggle. I can never claim what you do because I'm not there, but I can only learn from it and help you enhance what you do. So kind of that is my big journey that I'm on. Yeah.
I think most, just to continue what you just said now, that with all the women, we kind of found that as when it comes to the breach between youth and older women, that we almost kind of exclude them on a lot of things where they kind of bring the new ideas.
Yeah.
And from here on forward, we need to work on that more because we had a girl, Angela, for our Women's Day interview, and she just hit it out of the park. We were two older ladies on the show, and we actually asked, so why are we here? We should actually give a platform like this to younger women so that they
Mm-hmm.
can carry on. But we almost most times when we talk about Women's Month, we exclude them from the conversation, and we talk about being a mother, being a grandmother, and the struggles we have, and excludes them. What do you think is a way that we can you know do this better for next Women's Month?
Yeah. So firstly, just to answer the question of being a mother, I think I'm a second mother or a stepmother to many kids that I've not given birth to. So a lot of them refer to me as mom. Not that I said they should, but it's just out of their own. So I think as well, for me, young people wants to be seen. Sometimes it's just about seeing them and also listening to what they are able to contribute and bring, and opening up the doors of opportunity to them. And that's how I always maintain that if you're in an organization, you're not there forever. Jy gaan dood. You know, jy is nie 'n kandidaat, you're not a thing that's going to come up again in another form. You can't do it, you know. So you need to actually give over. You need to create that space. And I think a lot of things that is needed is the issue of having patience, having the patience, because the way you learned, it's not the way the next person is going to be learning. So you need to open that door as wide as you can, you know, and have the patience to take people through a process. And if they come and they put little gems in, accept that gems to make the process better. So I think and young people have great ideas, you know, that sometimes they're not given a chance to put it out there, and then they become frustrated and they do other things. So best to give them the platform, let them come in, let them tell you what they think, you know. And it's important, and I think that's what we also miss with our kids. We think we know everything. We never allow their voice in the process to understand how rich it will make the curry that we are making, you know. We just want to do it the same old way we've done it before. So I think if I could advise for the next one is that to have that intergenerational actual discussions where people can, maybe like a panel where people can be learning from one another. So what are you bringing? What have I brought to the process? Or what is new that you're teaching me? You know, that I mean, I've had a family event the other day, and somebody that was older didn't know where to put their phone, so how to switch off the YouTube thing. And the young person could jump in and say, "There," and they laughed. They said, "All of you don't know what buttons to press." So it is that little things, you know, that they bring to our space that makes the space richer. But we must have the patience within ourselves or the openness to allow them to come in to actually make the difference. You know, so yeah, if we can allow that, I think it will be much better. Yeah.
The other thing that also came through with most of the women is that oftentimes, like with the lady with cancer and depression and etc., we almost want to help them, and they fine with accepting the help, but oftentimes we do not almost prep the community or the friends or the support structure that needs to fulfill them, and so their wrong words, the way they look at them sometimes influence how quickly they heal. And so it was almost like we need to, like lady that spoke about this different being differently able last night, that the way we interact with them should change. And so we're just talking about a women's month. Do you think also that when it comes to exposure of youth or women in general, because we did speak about teens and young adults as well, that maybe in there we must also more train the community in how to speak, how to listen, how to accept more than just telling the youth, come, do this, women, do this. Because everyone said, have a voice, you have the power, you have the voice.
Mhm.
But then they come back into a community that's not accepting.
Yeah. So I think that's a very important question. I can't remember where this was raised, the issue of acceptance. Oh yes, I was on some retreat, and we spoke about, you know, the whole issue around acceptance of various things and how we are socialized, you know, to judge, how we are socialized to look at a situation without questioning or without asking the relevant question or without listening to that matter. I think that's a skill that is much needed within our communities, but also the sensitization to issues of women, of youth, of the girl child. It's not there, you know. It's become like something that is just there and needs to be dealt with, and you mustn't complain too much, and you must close that door and just move on. So I think as well the way we orientate our communities, and you know, in the old days, so now my age comes out, we used to talk about popular education and all of those things. We used to go into communities, and actually, if we wanted the campaign to run, we would go and educate that community first about that campaign around popular education. They would then spread that by word of mouth. And I mean, that's how we, in the past, we used to fight the apartheid government, is by doing these things, going back to basics, having street committees, having people having discussions about things and starting the conversation. And that was how I was schooled, but we've lost that. So now we scheme over things, we don't care how we say it and so on. But we also, from our own selves, we don't make, we give our food. We have a program to take people to a mountain, but we don't take the time to actually educate our communities about what is and what is not supposed to be, and how they need to address things, who are the people that they must actually go up against, as opposed to going up against one another. So for me, we've lost that. We've not we are doing big things, but we forget about the little things that holds us together and keeps us together and make us appreciate and respect one another. And I think that's why when I worked with you guys in the previous organization, it was so important for me to build relationships. I think that's something that is missing. People work with people because of the issue, but they don't work with the person because of the person. They don't understand the person. They just want to go to the issue. And before long, the issue falls flat because you didn't even understand where that person is. Maybe that person's not even ready to deal with that issue, but you're pressing them to deal with an issue that they themselves are not even ready with personally. So for me, relationship building, I think that was my first thing that I came to realize when I started working with the groups, that you have to build relations not only with you and them, but between them, so that when you leave tomorrow, the relationship continue irrespective of whether you are there or not. And that is what will stand the test of time. So I think it's the same thing about the youth and older people, is that we don't have relations. We live past one another. There's a cell phone world where people text one another as opposed to saying something. And the communication in families and everywhere else gets lost because we don't get together, we don't understand one another, we don't build a relationship. It's all fickle and up in the air and somewhere in a cloud. So I think we need to get back to basics and start putting those things in place. Yeah. Sorry, I can talk a lot. People, as you can hear.
No, I totally agree because, like, just coming back to Saturday when we were with some of the kids in the garden, and then we just had a slow day because normally we work. And then what happened was I found out from kids that had a smile on their face every day about what is actually going on in their lives.
Yeah.
And like, miss, my mom that doesn't understand me, or we don't have a relationship. It's teachers that need to teach them things about their bodies that they can't go
Mhm.
get at home. Um, so there is really a miscommunication where they are saying we are being punished for things because our elder siblings have done it, and so now we get punished. And there's so many other things that is happening in our lives, and people just keep on wanting us to, excel in things.
Yes.
So I think for Women's Month next month, that is something definitely we need to delve into. But coming back to organizations, what are some of let's do the challenges first that you think, especially women in organizations, go through?
I think there's a lot. Firstly, I think with the authorities, the respect that women deserves for doing sometimes the impossible. And I know most of the organizations I work with did not receive any funding, and I mean so that's the one thing, having to fight for that little bit of money to come in so that you can continue doing the good that you're doing. Um, and then, yeah, not there's no recognition basically for what they're actually doing and how they are the backbones of the community, and keeping their communities and spaces alive. So I think that's the one major thing. The second thing is what I found, and that I think when I speak to people about the Kemba women particularly, and I say that, we don't have that issues amongst us where we fight and my view is always there's a place for everybody. So the more you share, the more you get, and so on. And I think sometimes that is a difficulty, specifically amongst women run organizations where they don't see eye to eye. And I can say I'm proud of the fact that when I was involved in some of that, I made sure that that doesn't happen. That we rather speak about things and have it over and done, and we share. And so I think the challenges is also about sharing information, sharing knowledge, and making sure that there are spaces and places for women to grow, irrespective of whether we're doing the same thing, but to grow The other thing I think is the issue of collaboration. It's become sometimes a tedious and a tiring thing. People think I'm going to collaborate with you. You're going to take away my name. Next thing, I won't have a vagina anymore. I'll get a penis. Sorry, this is a PG show, but so that kind of thing, where you feel that you have to cling onto things irrespective. So
mm,
sometimes I find that a challenge,
mm,
and then I sometimes find a challenge of I founded this organization so nobody else can come in and help me make it better. And then we as specifically women, we tend not to want to let go. And that sometimes can create big major issues. Um, and I think it's important, specifically there's other women, to empower them, in your spiral towards wherever. And I also, you don't want to be forever somewhere. You want to move on, you want to grow, you want to be in other spaces. And also,
mm,
I feel you're in other spaces, you bring things together, you can see clearer and so on. So I think that there are those, and then there's also the issue of gender-based violence. Um, there's a lot of issues that women in general, deal with all the time. So while they're dealing with that, they still need to continue with other things that's happening within the organization without even, so they lose focus on themselves. So what I find, and I was one of them, that you don't focus on yourself, you let your health go, and you're
mm,
so concerned about the people that you help that at the end of the day you're not even there when you need to be there. You're so sick to be there because you haven't looked after yourself. So
mm,
women well-being is a big major issue, specifically for the burden carriers of our communities. And that's why, I mean, I started the well-being camps, where we had really real fun, and we let women put their head down and they become kids all over again. They jump in pools with their clothing and they do all kinds of things, run around the block. But, the comments we got afterwards, and only at the time when we stopped doing it, people said, look how I missed this thing. Because it was a period for me to just breathe and forget about other people and focus on me a bit. So when I go
mm,
back there, I know, I've got all my energy back. I can go back in there and I can put in the 100% or the 200% I normally give. So it's about, it's also mental health.
mm,
Within the spaces that we work in, that is something that people don't talk about. It's a stigma. It's like HIV and others. You say you have mental health, and automatically moet jy lente gee toe gaan, and so nou praat ons daaroor. So we put it under the carpet. It's something
mm,
that we can't speak about because wat gaan die mense sê? And I think
mm,
that specific in our own communities, tyding van wat gaan die mense sê is such a big deal. We hang ourselves up about that and we forget about the good we do. I always say, die mense kan maar sê, maar hulle gee jou niks en hulle gaan niks doen nie. So put it out there and deal with it, because mental health is a real thing,
mm,
and it's something that we hide. We don't want to talk about it. And amongst women, it's very high. So yeah, and even amongst our girl children and youngsters, it's something that we hide, we don't talk about. Yeah, because we don't want to be referred to later here. So yeah,
Later, yes, so
yeah, as for die politiestasie met slap or something. So but those are real issues. I mean, that's not
yeah, it
given
is.
credence to. Yeah.
You kept on saying about like women and almost don't want to let go of the organization, and so they don't want to hand over the baton and all of these things. Do you think there's um like a mindset that change that needs to happen between almost like treating the MPO that you started as a small business, or well, most people treat it as like a small business compared to I'm an entrepreneur. I'm gonna make this thing work and then I'm gonna move on to something next.
I I think for me, when you must be very conscious when you start an NPO, it will never be yours.
Mm,
Even if you close it, the assets does not belong to you, you can't take it back, and all of these things. So also when you start an organization, specifically for purposes of community, it is for the greater good of community. And there comes a time in your life that you do become tired, that you if you used to climb 10 mountains, jy is nie meer daar nie, jy klim nou half a mountain, dat jy even daar by die half toe kom, dus ek kan net nie meer asemhaal nie. So you need to be able, I think, yes, running it like a business or an entrepreneur, I'm not sure whether everybody's mindset is like that. But I'm just saying for me, the realization the day you start, somebody asked me that the other day and said, do you want to start that? Because you must know you're going to get board members and they're going to tell you what to do. But the whole problem is, the whole point is that this is for the greater good. So it's not just for you to decide, it's what people expects, and how do you meet that expectations and all of that. So if you started with that in mind and say, I'm going to bring in people in your organization that is better equipped than me, I can't do everything. I don't know how to do this IT thing. And so I'll bring that person in. I'll bring somebody else with new ideas and we'll constantly develop together. So in the event that I feel I can't go onto the 10th mountain, I only hear about the half of the first one, that there's other people that can go ahead and do what they need to do and grow the organization. And I mean, there's a lot of examples in the world where that has happened and the organization still stands today. It's just sometimes we are so, when we started something, we want to, keep it to ourselves. And I think that's a time that it breaks down and it doesn't grow, it doesn't go anywhere. And we miss out on the opportunities. I always say, I want to lie, if it's mine, I want to lie in my bed one day and look at it and say, wow, look where it is, and I was part of that journey. And I think if you can see yourself as being a cog in the wheel of that organization, you've been there, you've done something, and look how it grows. It's something to be proud of, to go out there and tell people, look, I was part of it, I started it, but look where it's gone. And these are the people that has taken it forward. So, yeah, I think, but I also realize it's very difficult when you put your heart and soul into something and your passions is there and you kind of had blood and sweat and tears for it, and all of a sudden you must let it go. I'm sure it is a difficult journey, so I also understand that part. But I think then we need to go for that trauma and for that counseling to start separating ourselves from the organization and say that's an entity. I still am Wafa. I'm going to maintain my name, my surname, whatever I have for me. But I know I'm sure it is a hard journey to go to. But at the end of the day, you have to let go, and put
I
others
also
in.
think we give over the giving over is like too late. Like if you check a relay, you must give over at the right time. And so
Yes,
sometimes they want to give over, then it's too late, and there's no real. The next person can't real do any distance because now the race is done.
yes.
So how do we? How do you maybe have any ideas of how we can kind of start bridging those gaps?
I think it starts at the beginning of the organization that you grow people with you. I always say that if a person feels invested in the organization, they'll stay, irrespective. So I'm saying that if you start, or specifically young organizations, start with opening up the space, giving people, let people come in, let people share their ideas, and you'll never know who could be your successor if you don't allow people in. So let them come in, let's see ideas, spot potential, you know. Don't, because you have more than me and you can say, nee, die ene se spiet is moet ek baie styf vasmaak sodat sy voete kan choke, en die vorentoe kan loop. So for me is that you need to start when you start. Take people with you. Because I mean, look at COVID now taking so many people, and then this one, and then this and that. Check out die pad loop as jy do it. So I'm saying take people with you from the get go. Invest people in your organization. Don't let it just be you. Because if it's just you, it's going to be so difficult to give off. But if people invest with you from the beginning, they build that love for the organization with you. I always say, I'm sorry, would never have left SACO where I was, which is the organization for the financial co-ops. The only thing is I needed some finance because my daughter needed to study. But otherwise, other than that, that was one place I would have stayed. I mean, the trade union movement as well, but I had other commitments. But when you grow people with you, it's so much better at the end because they've got the heart of the organization, in here. And they won't just go and take it down the pit because they've grown with it, they've invested in the organization, and so on. And also go and train your people to do a good job. Don't expect people to do a good job if you haven't given them the tools. Yeah.
And how do we come or work around the fact that a lot of, especially if you want to bring youth in, not every youth want to work on a voluntary basis for like a year or whatever. How do you manage that?
I always say there's no volunteer work at this point. I mean, we're in a situation where unemployment is the highest. Youth unemployment is about 75 to 72% in our
Mm,
country. A lot of people are relying on people's pensions and grants and that to survive, which is absolutely nothing. So
mm,
I'm saying it's so difficult at this point to ask anybody to volunteer. I mean, you can volunteer if you have old money in the bank and you know you're gonna go there and just give your time because you
mm,
can go. You are gonna go home and have a stick, you know. But
mm,
at this point, most of our youth are come from very disadvantaged backgrounds where they don't have the next thing,
mm,
and they have to hustle all the time for something to eat and all of that. And also their families are not are impoverished, so they themselves don't have. So
mm,
it's always a difficult. I always say that's why when you get students from university, that's why a little bit maybe that's a little bit better off and so on to come and volunteer is always better because it's
mm,
part of their practical or they have to do it. But ordinary youth that hasn't been working for 3 years, 4 years just to come and say, "Come, Mark, cool, it's time they, do something in my organization and I won't pay you."
mm,
At this point, I think it's so impossible. But I think if it's part of a study program or something like that, it's still
mm,
manageable, or it's part of a learnership. But to
mm,
give people nothing and expect them to come back every day and spend their no money to come to you, I mean,
mm,
I always think it's not fair to do that at this point. But if you do
mm,
have them and they are committed, the one thing I also hate sometimes of organization, they use people. And when these jobs come along or things come along, they forget the people that has put in the free time in the organization. So
mm,
treat people well. If they are there and they're coming, take them for training, take them along to things, expose them, if you can. And they may be loyal. And when things become available, don't forget them,
mm,
bring them back in, yeah. Or ask people, what is it that you want to volunteer? Don't let the volunteer come and work there for 8 hours and then say, hey, 9 o'clock, jy was hier nie, you know. But jy weet, by Vrydag gaan jy die man niks gee nie, maar jy wil jy moet 9 o'clock daar is. So I think there must be some give and take. I can't give you much, but this is what you can offer from of your time.
mm,
And how are we going to work it? How do we compensate? Maybe not by money, but by other ways the
mm,
person that comes into our organization so that they feel that I may not get money, but they see my value or there's something, down the line that I may benefit out of giving my
mm,
time. Yeah. En
mm.
as jy ryk is fine. Dan kan jy maar kom in my heel dag week. But unfortunately also youth het nie daai nie.
Yeah,
Hulle kom nie van daai background nie. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
to volunteer is always a good thing. But yeah.
Yeah, and especially now with funding and lack of funding, I think a lot of organizations are also struggling to get volunteers in to help with that because they can't pay for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
What are some of the checklistings that an organization should have in place?
I think for me, if you want to run the organization and make sure that it's still there tomorrow, is to kind of have proper financial systems in place. So as jy daai R100 inkry en dit kom van iemand, make sure that it's spent in the correct way, that you have the correct papers for it, that you actually put it down because a lot of people, even if it's private donors and that, they want to know that the money is not going to go into a depot or het gaan jou golflessen betaal of iets soos daai nie while your neighbor honger is. So for me, the financials, a good financial system to be in place. Also a good administration system, that
Mm,
put your things in place, know where things are, must be easily found. There's SARS, there's all kinds of other things that require you to have proper admin systems in place.
mm,
Also the NPO directorate, subsidy your company. They want your documents and they we had a woman that kept all the slips in a Shoprite bag. But they did these slips uitges. And then you must know the slips that comes out of the till sometimes. It disappears over time. It's better
mm,
to place it in a book, in a hardcover book. So the datum up, sit it down. Whoever does your books can just go through it. but to
mm,
keep it in the Shoprite bag and then having to sort it out later on at Veki Moini, you know. So
mm,
I think that, and then also have proper policies and procedures in your organization, specifically if you employ people. We can't, I was saying to somebody today, you can't be saying you're fighting this and you're fighting that. But in your own organization, the people that work for you are not having the best time.
mm,
Then they're wondering whether they must fight you, must they fight the issue that you're busy fighting. So
mm,
it's always good to keep the people that work with you. Also, they're human beings, they're not machines. So
mm,
treat them well. Have proper policies, have proper things in place so that you know you protect yourself, but at the same time, you also protect the people that work with you.
mm,
I think also have a strategy, have have something in place that tells you what your direction is. It doesn't mean it's going to stay static. It doesn't stay static. It would change as time change, but at least you have something to work from that you could always adapt to, you know, suit the situation that is prevalent at the time. Also, don't be a stickler and be so stuck that ek weet net die, ek wil net in daai way, ek gaan nie links of regs kyk nie. Al is die situation buitekant heeltemal different. You know, you need to adapt. You need to be adaptable as an organization. You also need to be, I think, in this day and age, you need to be able to change or adaptable change. You need to see what is there. You need to see, ek kan nie meer daai ou typewriter werk, dit gaan nie werk nie. You know, gaan 'n jaar vat om 'n brief te type en dan gaan die ink uitran en almal die dinge and then I won't be able to do my job. You know, so I think for me the relevance as well. If you say this is where you're working, make sure you are relevant to the needs of the people that you're working with, because to go, it's like the other story van selling ice to an Eskimo gaan nie werk nie, you know.
mm,
So rather look at who's your target audience, who you're working with, what is it that they require, and how do you together with them decide what to do. Because it could also be where you decide something and then look, wat die wat jy praat nie, and then you work, and then you will not have anybody to serve. So yeah, it's a very fine line, of being a stickler and stuck to a program, and also changing to adapt to change so that you become relevant and stay relevant in the space that you are in. Yeah.
Can I maybe ask a maybe controversial question? Why is
Mm.
it that some of the organizations in our communities kind of suffer compared to when you go to the northern side, or like we said, the whiter communities? Why is it that these organizations are so well compared to our organization?
I think it's not difficult to understand. White people are still close to white money and white privilege. Whether we have changed, we have not changed our economic systems. Still the same. People's money wasn't taken when apartheid left. They still have their riches and their wealth, and they are much more connected. Within our community specifically, I mean, a lot of us, we were not linked to, either removed from where we lived, had to go stay in a tent and then end up in an Nova Park or Mitchell's Plain or Pontyville, where we forever are fighting the fights to keep our people safe. Whereas in the areas that these people still reside, it's so well secured, and so they can focus on growing their organizations and doing all these little things and funny things and beautiful things that we don't even have the time to focus on. But at the same time, access to funds and funding as being there has never gone away, irrespective. And a lot of times, I'm sorry to say this, but some of these organizations are built on serving our communities, but the people at the helm of that community, of that organization, is not even from our community. They can't even understand what it is to be poor. So sometimes we are also used, our backs to be stepped on, to be able to do that funding so that they get the funding based on us and what they do for us, and then when we come in, we play the underdogs, we don't get the access and so on, because it's already saturated with other people that has had the organizations for millions of years and has used us, to kind of get the money and make the money that they are getting. And unfortunately, I know I won't be loved on for saying this, but it's true. Working in so many different spaces, I could see, how people get the money and the connections that was there prior, and it still continues. and then you come along and you're really doing something good, but you really have to work 500 times harder to be able to get to where they are, or don't even get to where they are. Or, yeah, so the old connection does work. Yeah,
It's all about who you know still
yeah, yeah, and who you are.
and who you are. Okay. And we will
Let's
be able and we will be able to change that very soon.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
a comment there from Kieran that says, "What a privilege to be able to tune into this discussion tonight." Um,
Oh my
let's
goodness.
as we almost busy ending off, what does it mean for you to be a woman in this day and age?
Oh, must I say must I tell you what I said to you before this? Okay, no. I'd rather not. I know I've got my other kids on here as PG. PG. Okay, so I think for me, it's so important to be a woman in this day and age. If I look at my journey and all my work and all the wonderful things that's done, irrespective of class, race, whatever, by women, you know, it's amazing. We are we like you called me the glue, but I think women are the glue that keep the community together. Women are the glue that keep their families together. In most cases, so for me to be a woman in this day and age, it's wonderful. It's powerful. It's something to be celebrated. Um, it says to me that I can be whoever I want to be, irrespective whether I have a penis or not. Because before, seriously, you need to have a penis in order to be seen. But in today's life, there's so many people on the forefront that are women that are discovering things, that are doing things, that are out there. I mean, I just this morning I read a piece on what is happening at the moment in Afghanistan, and how the women's movements are standing up against the Taliban in terms of their rights being eroded. And before, you never used to see that. And I'm saying, wow, this is amazing. Their lives are threatened and that, but they are standing up and they are prepared to say, to hell with this, we are going to fight this because we want our rights. So for me, yeah, and also all the phenomenal women like yourselves and others that I've known. I mean, that has gone and from nothing made something. So why can I not be proud to be a woman and be associated with powerful women? And I'm not talking money. I'm talking powerful women in terms of what they put out and what they say and what they do for the people that surrounds them. Yeah. And then I thought I shouldn't say this, but also, yeah, on the lighter side, a woman has a vagina, which is a good thing. So yeah, I think if you have that, you don't need to think with it. You actually can think with your head because it's not protruding. So when they say sometimes when something protrudes, you need to think with it. But now because you don't see it, you are able to focus on stuff that comes with the head, and you also can think with your heart from time to time. Yes, that's just my end of this discussion.
How
I didn't want to say
how
anything,
can
but you were
how
looking
can
at me
you sit
forever
there with
last
like a
week.
straight face?
Sorry, this is just what I'm thinking of. Yeah, yeah, no,
Okay.
I think it's a time for us. It's our space and our time. And I can say it, and I can say it because somebody else is sleeping behind me, so no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, you said you work with organizations. Is there maybe an organization that you want to talk about and just tell us what you do with the organization?
Okay, so like I said, at the moment, I'm the national coordinator for the Fighting Inequality Alliance. It's a global organization, and I work with different movements and organizations right across the country. But one organization I want to focus on that I work with outside, but they're also part of the global alliance, is Youth Arise. It's an organization I have a real passion for. It's to see that youth from our communities are given a chance. We come together, we sit and we share what we have. We share knowledge, we share our of ourselves, and we see how we can help one another, to actually go and do something different out there. We have an exciting program that's going to come up that we're going to be talking to them about next weekend. And also, for us, employment, to try and get them into employment is going to be very important. Uh, a lot of our youth are struggling. They finish matric or they have skills, but they don't get into jobs. So, and that creates all the issues that they come from. And they don't come from areas that have, I mean, it's all the places on the flats that are really riddled with crime and gangsterism and all this what verkeerd is. So for us, it's important, to show them there is a different way. And a lot of them, I mean, I'm very proud to be associated with them. They go all out, they put themselves out there, and yeah, so it's something that's really close to my heart. And yeah, that I would like to work on even if I'm 80 years old and they allow me to be in their space. Yeah,
Do they
that's
still cater?
Yeah, we did before. Remember, COVID came and stopped that. So people weren't doing anything, but we want to pick it up again because it's one of the streams we're thinking that they can actually be employed in and get. Because I think nowadays we need to start creating our own things because nothing is coming. Jobs are being lost in the system. So we're going to have to look at how to make our own jobs and so on. So we would like to pick it up again. Yeah. This time around, I hope there's more cookers and bakers and hooters so that they can take it over. And I can just shout them around and tell them what not to do. I'm sure they're listening and swearing at me at this point. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I know. I just wanted to ask this: is there? We spoke about the challenges for the organization and women. What good advice would you leave to women that's in an organization or part of an organization?
The good advice for me is share. Share of yourself, share of your knowledge, share of your skills. The more you share, the more you gain. I think also have the tough conversations that you need to have with one another as opposed to having it behind people's back. It's very important. The other thing I would say to women that are in organizations, don't sell yourself short. You can do it. Just you need to say to yourself, I can do this. Nothing is impossible. And then also the other thing I would say, go and seek for help. Ask. Don't sit there. Nobody would know that you're struggling with something if you don't talk. There's so many people that are really wanting to listen. It's just for you to speak up and say what you need, or even something that bothers you, to find the help. And the last thing I'd like to say to women in organization, look after yourself. Your health and your well-being, it's important. You cannot be great for other people if you're not great for yourself. You cannot be good for other people if you are sick. So and also maybe leave space for others to fill your shoes, and therefore share as much as you can for the growth of the organization. Yeah.
It's it's been almost the same message for every woman that came onto the interview. But how did maybe you can share how did you get rid of that guilt of letting go and sharing and things like that?
I don't know. I come from a family where my mother was known as Soet Lekker and Eat Lekker in the road. Because anybody and everybody that came in had to eat and had to sit and all of that. So Soet Lekker and Eat Lekker, that was just like a bijnaam that they used to give her. So my dad and my mother, they were basically people that would. My mother never believed in making a small pot of food because what is iman inkom, that type of thing. So it was something that was most probably instilled in me from a very young age. But when you're young, you really not goed te hoor nie. Die mense is allemaal mal. But as you grow up, I think the lessons all come streaming back to you that what you put out there, comes back in twofold. As jy verkeerde goede uitsit dan buitekant, die verkeerde goede kom op 'n later tyd terug na jou. So I think that for me, yeah, I think because development is also such a big issue for me that I I don't want to go and die and give the ants my knowledge. If I've learned something, it's not everybody that has the privilege to go and learn that thing. And that's how when I go anywhere else, I'd like to learn from somebody else because I may not have had the privilege to go and listen to that thing again. So for me, it's always about passing on what I know, but at the same time, being a sponge to other people's journeys and ideas and so that I can again learn from that and then again pass it on because I think the more I pass on, the more I get. But I think it comes from my parents, even though I'm thinking about it, yo, I'm actually saying that. But I think it's that, yeah, hulle het alles gedeel and they were just like that. So, and I think I only realized it later on in my adult life that actually it came from there, that I need
Yeah.
to give out more than what I receive. Yeah.
So giving, it seems an easy thing to do. It's not so easy to do. It's not a easy thing to do. Especially if, like you say, there's a lot of things that you put in the sweat to get this thing going.
Mm.
Um, but I also think the thing that we need to kind of preach the whole time is that just because you started the organization, it doesn't belong to you. And I think I
Yeah.
learned it from you. I think I learned it from you where it says like you can't say it's my organization because automatically if you say that it's my organization, it's like I belong to that organization. Even though you started it, I belong to that organization because it creates that mental thing in your mind that it's not yours, it's
Mm.
something you belong to.
Yes.
So it already sets up, and not to have that expectation of it's mine and I must keep close to it like a small child that fights about a toy the whole time when there's a whole toy box still out there and no one is playing with it
You can
type
say
of
it's my
situation.
company. The company belongs to you, you know.
Mm.
But I always say when you set up an organization, it's like somebody said to me the other day, you must be conscious about what you want to do. If you want this to belong to you, you want to get profits out of it, start a company. Don't start an organization because it will never be yours. I mean, the person asked me that question the other day. Are you sure you want to do that? Because a board can just come and wipe everything away. I said, but I want to do that because it's something I want to do in the community. It's not something I want to profit from. So if I want to profit from and I want to say it's mine, start a company. Don't start an organization because it will never be yours. The day you registered it, you must know. I may have registered it, but it does not belong to me. Ideas die gaan kom en claim daai goed van jou. So dat jy like of nie. And that's how I always also say to people, when you are in an organization and jy gee jou tafel van jou huis, sê jy leen dit en laat daar 'n agreement wees. So if tomorrow you want the table back, the board, whoever knows that Pionifer has borrowed this table to the organization, doesn't belong to the organization. But if you give it to the organization, you must know as jy jou naam met 'n stukkie ding onder gekrap het op die tafel, jy sal dit moet doodkrap because it belong nie aan jou nie. Die tafel is nou good enough se tafel, you know. So it's kind of those little small things that you must take care of. I mean, as jy die stoel wil leen, sê jy leen die stoel en dat daar 'n agreement wees jy leen die stoel. Maar as jy dit gee, dan sien jy jou nie, jy kan nie jou naam gaan opkrap nie. Dit gaan nie werk nie, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we had some very good advice for your organization, for you as a person, as whoever is running the organization. For those who have missed out and is gonna just fast forward and listen to it again. And there's also again the plea of building bridges between the different age groups. We are losing out a lot of knowledge. We are losing out on a lot of technology and a lot of new ideas because we do not incorporate or hand over the baton at the right time. And so when you hand it over, as die reis klaar en almal is al van die stage afval, dan wil niemand meer die ding sien nie. So klaar is dan rooi huis gaan wen. So
Mm,
hand it over at the appropriate time, and also as we just ended off the conversation, that knowing that an organization will never ever belong to you. And it's my mom also say, I think that doesn't end wrong, it starts wrong. So it's
yeah.
about starting it right from the beginning, and then it will automatically end right. And it's
Mm,
about collaborations, it's about getting your stuff in order, but it's also taking care of yourself, most importantly. Because
yeah.
once I'm also out that you can't fall from an empty cup. As ek nou die saying reg gekry, ja.
Yeah.
Um and so
You
it is
can't
very important.
drink
You
from an
know?
empty cup. You can't drink van 'n empty cup nie. You
Ja,
can't drink.
die koppie is empty. Ze kan nie vul, ze kan nie pour nie, ze kan niks die koppie. Die koppie. So yes, please look after yourself. And I think for this whole month of August, the issue has come up again about mental health, looking after yourself, looking after your mind, looking after your soul, your body, mental health, mental health, mental health. And ons gaan seker maar nog so aangaan om te praat oor mental health die hele tyd. So please look after yourself. And before we say good night to Wafa, we just want to send out a special birthday, happy birthday to Carmenita. She has turned 40 today.
Happy
So
birthday.
happy birthday to you. Ek hoop jy het 'n baie lekker verjaarsdag gehad. So happy birthday to you. She was one of the viewers was when we did one of the interviews. And we also want to say thank you to Wafa for her time. Ek was verseker geweest ek moes gery het see toilet want ek wil nie weer disappointed nie. So baie dankie.
Yes, but I also want to say before we close that Bionica is one of the people I'm extremely proud of. I'm extremely proud of having knowing her and having worked with her and still wanting to work with her. She's grown from, yeah, we were sitting in a mother's house doing a vision exercise and it was all over the show to where she is now. I mean, giving women a platform each day of the week or each day of the month. I mean, congratulations. You've really, 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 really grown. And I mean, we were witness to her almost having a child, so her last child does not belong to her, it belongs to all of us. Yeah, so I mean, I'm really, really proud of how far you've grown and where you are at and what you're doing at the moment. It's really awesome. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. Ek wou amper gesê het nee, you can't come because ek was baie nervous van haar. Normally is ek nie so nervous nie. Ek het amper gesê no, you can't come. You can't. You're gonna make me nervous. I can still remember that the one day you came to us and you said, okay, we said we want to do this organization, and we had to do the sticky tape against the wall about who we're gonna do and what we're gonna do. I was one of those students like, why must we do this the whole time? This takes a lot of this is a lot of brain work. And I gave the things for my mom to do, like all those. And then she
Yeah,
went on, and then as
see.
I was told, no, you must also do it. So yeah.
You are now from that process, which is where you are. I mean, it's amazing to
Yeah.
look at your journey and see how where you are, what you're doing, and even collaborating with other people. It's amazing. You must pat yourself on the back. Well
Thank
done.
you. Ja, ons gaan maar net aan. Doen dit maar vir mami. Wat anders ek
Yeah.
kan eens doen. Ja.
Yes.
And similar to Wafa now being spoiled, so she took was it my first wellness camp? Yeah, it was my first.
Yeah.
Now what was my second wellness camp
Um,
or something like that. It was
first,
my
first.
second. Yeah.
Oh,
So so we she normally takes us at the end of the year, all of the women that she mentors to the wellness camp, and hulle almal is like, congratulations for the baby, and I'm all there. I'm like, because you're pregnant? Why? I'm like, no, my ovaries. You see, I have a problem with my ovaries. I'm not pregnant. And then we came from the camp. I went to the doctor. I was like, I need to check because after this, I'm going to go on a diet because ik kan laat mensen voor mij wat ja, kijk, ja, ik is pregnant. And then the doctor said, come, kijk, kom ik goed. You should be I was 33 weeks pregnant. So the
so we
message here is, yes, the message here is do not go on Wafa's wellness camps.
I that's a very bad way to end. People, if you must know the fun that people have at camps. And I'll know it's not fun for you. You can ask the other
Yeah.
people. Janica is not a very good ambassador of this. Ek sal hy comments sal ek nou nie ek sal dit miskyk soos hulle sê. Hy comments. It's fun.
Okay.
Fun. I'm not there that long time. I'm hoping to do it again soon. So yeah, I
Oh,
watch
please
the space.
invite me.
Take no, take no. Yeah, yeah. No, I will. I definitely will. I miss it myself.
I miss it too. You know. But anyway, thank you,
Thank
Wafa, for joining us tonight, and everyone else. We might not be back tomorrow night. We would have talked about autism, but Nicolette is still feeling under the weather, and so we might postpone. We will see, but if not, we might be only back on Thursday. And there's a book that this young lady took out that says "I Miss My Daddy," and it's just a book explaining um, she created the book for her sons that has the dad passed on with COVID, and she's going to talk about loss and grief. So thank you again for watching. We will be here maybe tomorrow, depending on how Nicolette feels, or on Thursday. So good night and thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.